I will do it. Do you believe that? Or have we, over time, been so unconsciously and unwittingly dumbed down that the basic question we unconsciously ask is, how do I make it through this week? How can I get my kids through college? How can we take the business to the next level? How can my marriage be a little bit better than it was last year? Well, let's kind of help out the church and, let's teach a class here and do something there. All those things are good things, but you know what happens is we get so close, so close, so close, we're living in this tiny little box, and the God of heaven is shouting, hey, hey, wake up! I want to put a God-sized dream in your heart. I want to do an impossible thing through an improbable person like you to provide exceeding grace to undeserving people. Ask of me. Greater works than I have done, you will do. Ask. Ask me anything from the Father, and I will do it. And of course, the code, the condition is you're asking things that honor Him. You're asking things that align with the Word of God. You're asking things that will bring glory and praise to Jesus. God births dreams in His people. How does it work functionally? I mean, I don't know about you, but when I go through this biblical basis of sanctified dreaming, I always start thinking, man, I think so small. I'm thinking about life in terms, and I don't mean to do it, about what I could accomplish in my strength, in my time, doing it my way for your glory. And what you want to do is say, Chip, that's not what I want in your life. I want you to start asking what I could do through you, not what you can do. Let me give you a little stroll through sort of a biblical lane, if you will, about how God bursts dreams in His people. You ever wonder how this works? So one of the things about me, I never opened this book until I was 18, but what I love it's so earthy, it's so real. I mean, we make these people like they're so out there, and, we put them in stained glass, and, oh, Peter, founder, rock, loudmouth, betrayer, loser, went back to fishing. Abraham, the great man of the faith. Liar, she's my sister, please don't kill me. I mean, Rahab, former prostitute. I mean, I read this book and I'm thinking, I don't know about you, I qualify. I mean, this is a book about very improbable people. In fact, some of you may be too good for God to use in a very significant way. You just may have too much going for you, because the people that God uses here, man, they got baggage, they got struggles, they got sin. I think about the great men that God has used, the great people God has used. Do you have to commit murder to be greatly used of God? Moses, David, Paul. Well, let's talk about how it works. I mean, I want to get down to the very nitty-gritty. And the way I've done this is I just did a little survey of some Bible characters, and I think there's a principle from each one. How God bursts dreams in His people. Let's take Abraham. First, he commands us to step out of our comfort zone. By the way, most dreams are done right here. If you are not willing to step out of your comfort zone, forget the dream stuff. Just listen to the first part of this and give it to a friend and say, you might like this, it's not for me. Unless you are willing to step out of your comfort zone, unless you are willing to take a risk, unless you're willing to do something where you step out and you're thinking, oh, God, if you don't help me, forget dreams. Because without faith, it's impossible to please Him. And those who come to God must always believe two things. We always emphasize one, but not the other. Those who come to God must believe that He is who He really is, and that He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek Him. Do you believe He's a rewarder? Do you believe that when you step out with your time, when you step out with your money, when you risk in relationship and get out there on the edge, that God is waiting, leaning over the throne of heaven, wanting to reward you and help you and bless you? See, that's a part of what faith is. Genesis chapter 12, here's Abraham. All of his family's right around him. He gets a word from God. Abraham, I want you to leave everything. I want you to go. Where do you want me to go? I'll let you know later. Could we go over that again? Yeah. I want you to leave all the security, all the people, and all this land with all its evil. I've got a whole brand new plan, and what I want you to do is just follow where I say, and it's go out of town that direction on that road, and no destination? No. No map? No. You just take the first steps of where I'm showing you, and as you keep walking, my word to you will be a light into your path and a lamp that will show you where one step of the way. The first step in a birthing process of God's dream in your life will be the same one with Abraham. You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone. Second, from the life of Joseph, we learn he puts a dream within our hearts. This isn't something you have to go out somewhere and say, what's some great, wonderful thing? What are your passions? What are the things that every time you see it, without understanding, your emotions start to well up? What is it that when you hear about or you think about, you know, your blood pressure goes up, your heart beats a little bit faster, and you catch yourself going, oh. See, God, Joseph was just dreaming. And God put a dream in his heart because he had a plan for his life. And you remember the dream that he gave him was Joseph? I'm going to have you in a position where, you know what, your brothers, in fact, your folks, they're going to bow down to you. And now, he wasn't very mature. We're often not very mature with our dreams. He blabbed and he was kind of arrogant, had some character issues to deal with. But, you know, a few times in prison and a little bit of neglect, that'll get your character, you know, where it needs to be. And, you know, that's what God does. He puts the dream in your heart, and often as you move toward the dream, life does not get better at all. It gets worse, it gets worse, it gets worse. Because when God entrusts a great dream to a man or a woman, the greatest danger is they will get swallowed by the dream and get caught up in their role in the dream. And so he usually has to take you some painful, difficult times so you always know who the dream's about. And so Joseph's character got to the point where when he was the ruler of all the land of Egypt, he understood who God was. And he understood he's just a steward. And he was put in this role. And in this role, it was, how, God, do I answer to you? And what do we know? He preserved the entire nation. He saved God's agenda, humanly speaking. But God will give you a promise. God will birth a dream. What's yours? See, this isn't a pie in the sky, self-help, get everybody fired up. Hey, let's dream a great dream. I want to tell you the process it really happens. It starts with Abraham. You get out of your comfort zone. Then it moves to Joseph. He births a dream. And then third, we move on to Moses. He allows us to fail in our attempts to accomplish his dreams in our own power. Moses got a dream from God. He got the right dream, didn't he? He wanted to deliver his people. But he's 40 years old, and he sees a couple guys fighting. He goes, hey, you know, you are hurting one of these Israelites. So he kills this man. The next day he goes out and sees two other people fighting. But this time, instead of a harsh Egyptian hurting a Hebrew, it's two Hebrews. Hey, he says, guys, stop. And they turn to him and say, well, who made you ruler or deliverer over us? What, are you going to kill us like the guy you did yesterday? And he goes, uh-oh, I don't think that little burial in the sand trick is going to work. And he runs for his life. Did he have the wrong dream? Or did he have the wrong method? See, God will move you out of your comfort zone. He'll begin to plant the dream. And did you notice did Joseph understand all the dream? You know, hey, it's this, and it doesn't make any sense. But I'll bet in prison, and I'll bet when he was wrongly accused by Potiphar, I bet those visions and those dreams would come back to him and think, it sure doesn't look like I'm going to have this position, and my brothers and sisters are going to bow down to me, but Lord, I just trust you. And Moses had the right dream but had the wrong method. And I want to encourage you that as God bursts something in your life, you will often go about doing exactly the right thing in exactly the wrong way. And he'll let you fail. He'll let you do it in the energy of your flesh. It's not like you were trying to do it that way. You know, you're just you and I'm just me, and you're saying, hey, I want to do something good. And you do it, and he will allow you to experience tremendous pain and failure. Thanks for joining us today. We're in a series called Good to Great in God's Eyes, and we're talking about dreaming great dreams. And then we talked today about how God develops dreams in us, and you just heard about how with the life of Abraham, that God will cause you to move out of your comfort zone. That's a prerequisite. And from the life of Joseph, he's going to do some things where he puts that dream in your heart.
And then we learned from the life of Moses, often God will allow you to fail in trying to fulfill that dream out of your own energy. You know, Moses, God's will was very clear. You are to lead my people. You're to deliver them out of Egypt. But 40 years before he did it right, he did it wrong. He did it in his own strength. You know, he killed the Egyptian. And here's what I want you to hear. I want to just really be tender with you here. Many of you watching on this day have had your dreams die. You thought you had a dream. You had some desires in your heart. You thought someday, some way. And then you launched out and you tried to do it and it fell flat. And you wrongly assumed, oh, that wasn't God's dream. God could never use me. Wait a second. What do we learn? God uses ordinary people to do extraordinary things, to provide exceeding grace to undeserving recipients. That's the story of this book. This isn't a book of superstars. This is regular people like you and me. But there's a process. You know, he moves you out of your comfort zone. You know, relationally and financially and by faith, pretty soon you got to move. And as you begin to move, it gets scary. And then he plants that dream in your heart. And certain things that just bug you and you can't shake them. And, you know, you can get away from them for a year or two and they come back. And they're great things that you know could happen if there was time and money and leadership that would really help people for the glory of God. And some of you launched out and it didn't work. And you wrongly think it wasn't God's dream. Could I suggest that maybe you're right where Moses was? And you know, he left and thought, God's done with me. No, God has you in a training program. What he wants to do is something deep in his relationship with you so he can later do something great in his relationship through you. Don't give up the dream. In fact, in our next broadcast, I'm going to talk about the next step, what we learned from Moses, what we learned from David, and we're going to learn a very clear process that God can resurrect that dream, do a great work in you. Please, don't give up.